on paper, kind of a weak game, but it turned out to be kind of interesting.
Wild.
Until the end. Goes to overtime, and the Broncos get super lucky as Nick Bonito bats down what should have been a walk-in touchdown for Jeremy Nichols in Washington. Mariota didn't totally read it well, didn't lob it up high enough. Here's Sean Payton after the game when he was asked about escaping.
I'm sure both teams, when we look at the film, probably did some things we didn't want to do, but those guys came out and fought hard. So did our guys, and we made a play at the end. That was the difference. We don't escape. We won. The journey of a good team season involves games like this, and then you believe that you can do it again.
Let me defend Denver here.
Okay, all right,
so
let's hear it.
Now the season's 17 games. So we all acknowledge the first game of the year doesn't even matter. Raiders beat the Patriots. You start playing well. A great example is the Rams. Stafford had 30 touchdowns and 2 picks. Do you think he was going to end up with 40 touchdowns and 3 picks? Eventually, you travel out east, you get caught flat-footed, Carolina has to win off a Niners loss, and all of a sudden the Rams defense doesn't have a ton of energy, and Denver won the game. Okay, Denver is a number 1 seed. They're not going to play with the same intensity. All those guys know Washington's on a backup quarterback. When you have a 17-game season, this is not college football, as you well know, where you have advantages with athletes. These are all pro players. And so I'm watching that game. It could have gone either way, but I'll tell you, I don't think it's a coincidence that Sean Payton and Ben Johnson win all these close games, or Andy Reid did last year. They are very good at several things. They were just bad defensively by their standards last night. The Rams were bad yesterday by their standards. Bryce Young, 15-20.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the one-score games, 8-2. You saw the stat on the screen, 5-0 when trailing in the fourth.
Yes.
We can say that's intestinal fortitude and toughness and smarts. Well, you know what? The Chiefs last year, unbelievable in one-score games. This year, wouldn't you know it? They can't win any of them. They're really struggling in one-score games.
Yeah.
So this stuff kind of goes back and forth. You have to admit, the ball is bouncing their way a lot.
Yes.
And Colin, I cannot wait to see who they play if they get the 2 seed.
Same.
We think with the Patriots will probably be the 1 because of the schedule. If they play Buffalo,
I'm taking Denver. I'm taking Denver.
We'll be head-to-head on that one. If they play could they play the Ravens? I don't know if the Ravens could get the wild card because that division's kind of wonky right now. We'll see. I don't know. If the Chiefs play Denver round 3?
If the Chiefs... Wait, what?
Are you taking Denver? I think we need to pump the brakes on how dominant this team is. Enjoy it while it lasts. I see you grinning. You know the story here. Like, this is not a great football team, Colin.
This is not an elite football team, okay? Let's just state that up front. Goodness gracious. It's fine. It's Monday. Everybody just calm down. Take a breath. Relax. All right, before I proceed to thoroughly dissect, critique, and dismantle this narrative, a quick word for Denver Broncos supporters. Please remember to subscribe and watch this video from start to finish. Doing so is the most impactful way to support this channel's growth, allowing me to continue producing the best possible Broncos-related content. When you commit to watching the full video, a direct and positive correlation occurs. Viewership numbers increase dramatically, subscriber counts rise significantly, and the community strengthens. This isn't merely about chasing metrics. It's about cultivating the best possible platform for substantive sports discussion, creating a space firmly rooted in authentic football conversation. Now, I need to address this directly because the reaction requires a measured rebuttal. First, are you aware of the sheer volume of surprising outcomes across the league this week? It was one upset after another, a cascade of unexpected results. And the Broncos' stance seemed to be, that's interesting for other teams, not for us. We'll handle our business. That in itself is a statement. The Washington Commanders have experienced significant turmoil this season, primarily due to a relentless wave of injuries and constant lineup fluctuations. However, the foundational core of this team, particularly with Jalen Daniels, and to be fair, he was absent, demonstrated last season they are capable of reaching an NFC championship game. This is not a franchise in total disarray or circling the drain. While the Commanders, in their current state, should theoretically represent a more manageable opponent, they are not the Cleveland Browns. They are not an absolute, irredeemable mess of an organization. They simply are not. Therefore, a contest against them is always positioned to be a tough, gritty, physical battle. Now, regarding the commentary on the critical two-point conversion play and the concept of luck. First, that is precisely how the play is designed to function. The defense is in a zero blitz look, betting everything on immediate pressure. The expectation is that your pass rushers will reach the quarterback, executing exactly what Baron Browning accomplished. That is the calculated risk, the proverbial deal you make in that high-stakes moment. It worked. That wasn't luck. We're engaging in a bit of revisionist history here. If there had been a noticeable delay, a hitch in the pressure, then you could suggest fortune played a role. There was no such delay. So let's establish that point clearly from the outset. Concerning these persistent one-score games, I was actually explaining this dynamic to my family over the Thanksgiving holiday. Everyone was watching football, remarking, "Look how close this game is. Look how tight that one is." My response was, that is the modern NFL. I don't think people fully internalize that the vast majority of professional football contests are decided by one possession. They consistently produce that palpable tension, the feeling that either team could snatch victory at any moment. My perspective on these narrow outcomes is dualistic. When a team is consistently winning a high percentage of one-score games, it reflects both the intrinsic quality of the team, its coaching, player talent, and execution, and an element of luck. By luck, I don't mean stumbling upon a four-leaf clover. I refer to the universal, sometimes cruel, sometimes generous whims of the football gods. The ball needs to take a favorable bounce on occasion. The Kansas City Chiefs did not magically lose the ability to win close games. Their previous success wasn't solely due to fortune, just as their current struggles aren't purely due to a lack of skill. It's a blend. The perfect analogy for this, which I use frequently because it's so apt, is Stephen Curry shooting three-pointers in a Game 7 scenario. There is an element of luck involved when he goes 8 for 12 from beyond the arc in that specific winner-go-home game. Conversely, there are absolutely situations where that same legendary shooter goes 2 for 10. It's not that he choked or took forced shots. Sometimes they just don't fall. It's simply the nature of variance, the basketball gods at work. This same principle applies to countless moments in football. A critical drop by a receiver, a Christian McCaffrey fumble in the Super Bowl. You don't expect that. A bizarre punt bounce off a leg, a star defender tearing an Achilles on the biggest stage. These are moments that transcend planning or skill. That is the dimension of luck I reference. Therefore, yes, the Broncos are currently benefiting from a favorable run of this situational variance. However, that does not mean their victories are entirely fortuitous or devoid of skill and resilience. The same principle applied to the Kansas City Chiefs during their dominant runs, the Minnesota Vikings a couple of seasons ago when they thrived in close games, or the Washington Commanders last year. It is a recurring theme in the NFL. Winning a lot of one-score games requires a combination. You need the ball to bounce your way, you need Stephen Curry to be hot in a given game, and you need to actually have a Stephen Curry on your roster. You need the elite talent capable of making those plays. That's the summary. You hope your star is hot, and you need to have that star. There will inevitably be stretches where, despite having the talent, the outcomes don't fall your way. It's just the cyclical nature of competition. To observe a close victory over the Washington Commanders and declare, "This team isn't that good," or to label their success "fool's gold," is an absurd overreaction. I'll conclude this segment by drawing a direct historical parallel. In previous seasons, I articulated this exact same argument regarding the Chicago Bears. In those years, it felt like the established powerhouses, the Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, were solidified entities. You could rationally conclude those teams held a distinct advantage due to experience, established quarterback play, coaching staff continuity, and championship culture. They seemed inherently tougher to defeat in January. Presently, the entire landscape is different. All of those presumed elite teams are exhibiting a significant degree of inconsistency. This volatility creates the ideal environment for a team like the current iteration of the Denver Broncos. Crucially, this is still not the best possible version of the Broncos. This is still not the peak of what Bo Nix can become, and that's perfectly acceptable in his second year. But this specific season is the most opportune time to be this version of the team, because winning a Super Bowl remains a tangible possibility. Who are your potential postseason adversaries? Drake May, leading a team in a similar developmental phase. The calculus changes dramatically if you are facing the historically dominant version of the Kansas City Chiefs, or the consistently explosive Buffalo Bills, or the reliably rugged Baltimore Ravens. Those teams, in their peak forms, are not the entities currently navigating the league. My current perspective is that every team residing in the upper tier of power rankings possesses an equal capacity for a dramatic boom or bust. I can visualize any of them catching fire and embarking on a championship run, or I can just as easily see them suffering a swift first-round exit. Attempting to predict the playoffs feels like a futile exercise. A potential Broncos versus Patriots matchup? I have no strong conviction. A Super Bowl featuring the Broncos versus the Seahawks? Completely unpredictable. Rams versus Broncos? No clear insight. The inherent volatility of this season makes definitive statements feel hollow. I am completely comfortable admitting, I don't know. I observe analysts making bold, unwavering declarations, but each team feels like a coin flip. What version will you receive on a given Sunday? They all appear capable of either winning it all or going home immediately. The Bills could see Josh Allen account for 6 touchdowns, or the offense could completely stall. Bo Nix can look dynamic and creative, or the entire offensive operation can sputter. Drake May can be brilliant. Matthew Stafford can look utterly unstoppable one week and turnover-prone the next. It is that kind of chaotic, unpredictable year. But these are simply my reflections. I would be absolutely delighted to hear your own. Let me know your perspectives in the comments section below. I read every single comment. So whether you find yourself in agreement or in vehement opposition, let's engage in some dialogue. Let's have some spirited debates. But ultimately, let's ensure we are enjoying the process. And please do consider subscribing. As I mentioned, we are in the process of cultivating a phenomenal community here, and would absolutely adore having you as a part of it. My goal is to build something to which we all feel a genuine connection, something we are genuinely thrilled to be involved with. I believe we are making significant progress toward that objective. Also, please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely assists with its visibility within the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you next time.